Hi guys! So as it is December, I thought a fun thing to do might be to reflect back on my TBRs from the year and see whether I read those books or not. So I'm not a monthly TBR woman, like I don't set myself a TBR every month or to be read if you're not familiar with the abbreviation, but I have done seasonal ones. I definitely did a summer one, an autumn one, more recently a winter one, and I believe I might have done some for some readathons, like the booktubeathon for definite. So I thought I would go back, watch those videos and see whether I read those books or not, because I'm kind of curious to see how well I stick to TBRs and if I do really stick to them at all, because like I said, I don't make them monthly, so I don't really see myself as like a big TBR person who can stick to a TBR regularly, but I feel like I've actually done pretty well if I can remember correctly what was on those videos. And I've seen videos like this, not exactly this I don't think, but on like Emma from Drinking by My Shelf's channel and Lala, who do these videos where they like watch back old videos and talk about whether they've read those books or not. So I guess that's kind of where I'm getting my inspiration from, so I'll link both of their channels down below. But without further ado, I thought we'll go back and see what I said I would read this year. Okay, so the first TBR I made of books I wanted to read in 2018 specifically was a summer TBR, so that's what I'm going to watch first. Skip the introduction. I'll start briefly with the two that I'm already reading and plan to finish by the end of June, not just getting into July. So but those are Brick Lane by Monica Ali and Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. So Brick Lane is the off to a good start. I read most of Brick Lane, maybe like 60% of Brick Lane. I didn't love it, so I ended up putting it down, but you know, I basically read it. It was the Feminist Orchestra book club read for that 2 months though, and I do always at least attempt to read my book club books, so like it's not like that commendable, but I did. And the same with Frankenstein, which was my Patreon book club read. I did read that, so pleased to have finally read that. Like I feel like I have ticked off a massive classic from my list. I do have one more book club book I'm going to be reading for the Feminist Orchestra, and that is Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson. This is the July-August read for the Feminist Orchestra, which if you're not familiar is a book club that I run with Lauren over at Reads and Daydreams. Again, was for my book club, the Feminist Orchestra, so yes, I have read Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson, and it was one of my favourite books of the year, so I'm really pleased that I did read that and that we set that as a book for the book club. I also have two sequels that I plan to get to in the next few months, and the first one is Lair of Dreams, which I have started actually. I'm about 40 pages in, but it's a chunky book, and this is the sequel to The Diviners. I haven't got any further than 40 pages in. I read the first book in that series, The Diviners, this year and did really enjoy it, but just have not continued on with the sequel yet, so maybe I should be making a note of these and turning them into a TBR for next year of some sort, or at least I'll narrow them down. Wait, I'm gonna get a pen. Okay, so I'm gonna make a note of all the books that I haven't read for my TBRs that I still want to read. So first up was Lair of Dreams. Hopefully this doesn't get completely out of hand. And I also want to read to the third and final book in the Binti trilogy by Nedia Corrifor. This is Binti the Night Masquerade. Done, read, adored that trilogy, just sped through all three books. And I think it's kind of rare for me to read an entire series in the space of a couple of months, although they are very short, but it meant I loved it and it was great. Love Nedia Corrifor. I do have another book by her that I want to get to, and that is A Kata Witch. This is more of a fantasy series than a science fiction series. It's set in Nigeria. Our protagonist Sunny was born in New York but now lives in Nigeria, and she actually has albinism. And I also read A Kata Witch. This year was in part the year of Nedia Corrifor. I read 4 of her books, become a massive fan. What else did I say I would read? A fantasy, I'm finding it so engrossing, pure escapism, and it's really what I'm drawn to at the moment, so I do naturally have a few more pieces of fantasy on my TBR. And the first two are actually by the same author. Those are Shadowfell and Son of Shadows by Juliet Marillier. Probably already seen, but I did a whole video about Juliet Marillier recently because she's been my favourite author of the year, and I read both those books, so yes. Interestingly enough, I can't say whether I definitely read Shadowfell in the summer. Oh no, and I definitely read Son of Shadows in the summer as well, but I'm not sure if I read these books when I said I would read them, even if I did read them, because I feel like I read A Kata Witch in autumn, but I'm not sure. In the mood for it now, I think, and that is Green Rider by Kristen Britten. Now this is a high fantasy novel, but what's quite fun and unique about this one is that the magical creature, so the high fantasy novel with magical horses, Haven't read it yet though. So Green Rider. I actually have a collection of poetry, so I'll mention that next, and that is Kumakanda by Antigone. Read, fantastic collection of poetry. And I have 2 plays whilst we're on slightly different formats. The first one is Troilus and Cressida by William Shakespeare. No, didn't read that. And I think I know what the next play is. Directly classical, I also want to finally get around to Antigone by Sophocles. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. I did read Antigone finally this year. Such a famous Greek play that I also read for my Patreon book club, although I don't think I'd set it for my Patreon book club at this point when I had it in my TBR. Not an ancient play, but a book inspired by an ancient play that I want to read is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. Yes, read it, adored it, interviewed the author on my podcast, so do check that out if you haven't already. Plug, plug, plug. Classical influence, and that is The Pisces by Melissa Broden. Now, I've heard really mixed things about this book. I'm about to go on about how that's I heard mixed things about it, and but I think I'm going to really love it. Didn't. DNF that one. Was not a fan, unfortunately, because I really thought I would love it. I do have a book on my TBR that I've been meaning to get to for a while, and that is Under the Skin by Michelle Pfeiffer. Haven't read that. Under the Skin. Okay, please not let there be too many more that I haven't read. I don't feel like I'm doing too badly though. Before I leave you, and the first one is Misogynation, The True Scale of Sexism by Laura Bates. This is a collection of essays written by Laura Bates. I have read that essay collection, again, really enjoyed it. Most of these, thankfully, I did end up enjoying. And what is the last non-fiction book? I can't remember. I also have The Life and Rhymes of Benjamin Zephaniah. Haven't read that yet. Benjamin Zephaniah is a poet and an author and an activist and many other things who I think is brilliant, so I do really want to read his autobiography. But those are all the books that were on my summer TBR, so next is to see what TBR video I did after that, and that was my booktubeathon TBR video. I think this is the only readathon TBR video I did, but I'm intrigued to see what I put on it. Probably way more than I could have possibly read during 1 week. These are the books that I plan on trying to get to during the booktubeathon. So first up, the shortest book on this list probably is actually a Greek play, so I'm really hoping I can read this one in that month, and it's Antigone by Sophocles. This is a bind-up. Repetition already, although a different edition. Well, we already know I read Antigone because it was in my summer TBR, which isn't surprising. I then put it in my booktubeathon TBR because that was during the summer, but I have read that, so that is fine. And then what did we have? But I think I'll probably only read one of them during the booktubeathon, so it's deciding which one I'll read. And they are both queer fantasy novels. So I picked both of these up in Gaze the Word, which is a bookshop here in London, and they're both fantasy novels. Okay, I'll not watch all of that, but it's Of Fire and Stars and The Tiger's Daughter, which are both fantasy novels with gay romances between 2 female characters in them. Now, I only said in that TBR I would read one of them, but I didn't actually read either of them, so I don't know whether I need to put both on my new TBR, but I'll put them down here anyway. Imagine I'll have finished the audiobook I'm listening to now by the time the booktubeathon starts. So the next audiobook I want to listen to is Misogynation by Laura Bates. Again, that was in my summer TBR. I have read Misogynation by Laura Bates. I then have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I was sent this book by the publisher and I haven't read that. This one is not going as well as the last video. Also have a sequel that I would like to get to, and I think once I start I'll just kind of compulsively quickly read because that's my experience of this author's books in the past, and that is Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray. Apologies, there's a lot of repetition in this TBR obviously. As we know, I haven't read Lair of Dreams. I try to only get 1 or 2 books out of the library at a time so that I can actually read them in the span that I have them borrowed without renewing them. The first one is The Clan of the Cave Bear. Didn't read that. Put on the list. And the next book that I plan on reading on my Kindle is Outrun the Wind. I haven't read Outrun the Wind either, but I'm filming this video before the year is technically over, and it is still kind of on my radar to read this year, so I might read it in 2018. So that video was not as good as the last one. Let's hope my next seasonal TBR is. Clearly I am not one for weekly TBRs for readathons, those I don't stick to. But I again think I might have done okay in my autumn TBR, so let's see what was on that. I'll start with a book I've actually already started, and that is The Odyssey by Homer. Yes, that was my Patreon book club read. I have read that. Again, not too impressed by myself that I've simply read my book club reads. Like, I then have a couple of Man Booker books on my TBR, which will of course be announcing their winner during autumn, so it'll be intriguing to see what wins. But the two in particular that I want to get to are The Water Cure by Sophie Mcintosh. This is... didn't read that. I hear really good things about The Water Cure, but I haven't read yet. What? But I haven't yet read it. And I think I know what the next book is if it's a Man Booker shortlist, because there's only other one book in the Man Booker shortlist I own. I also have Everything Under by Daisy Johnson. This is one where the blurb does not really give this away, but it is actually based on the Greek myth of Oedipus, which was what immediately drew me. Okay, yes, I'll put that on my list, but I've read half of it, and my only issue, and it's not an issue with the book itself because I think it was gorgeously written, but it's just quite a sad book. It has this like sad feeling to it, and it just was not clicking with me when I was reading it because I was feeling really sad and didn't want to feel sadder, but I did read half of it. An author I have loved in the past and have returned to recently is Jeanette Winterson, so I really want to keep reading more Jeanette Winterson, so I have The World and Other Places. Collection of short stories was what I was going to say there. No. I thought I was going to be doing better than this. Next up I have Child of the Prophecy by Juliet, which I have also actually started. Yes, read that, loved it. You know what I said, Juliet has been my author of choice this year and I read and adored that one. On the topic of fantasy, I really want to get to A Catawitch by Nedia Corafor. I recently read Nedia Corafor's Binti. Okay, I clearly didn't read that in the summer. Or it wouldn't have been on my autumn TBR as well, but I did then read it in autumn. I have read that book. And I'm going to be reading Liz Lockhead's Thebans, which is based on Sophocles' Theban plays. Did not continue on my Liz Lockhead binge, so I didn't read Thebans. One of my most recent acquisitions in terms of books as well is Ice by Anna Cavan. I didn't read Ice. Okay, now I'm embarrassed. I have a couple of poetry collections on my TBR as well. The first one is Measures of Expatriation by Vanni Capildio. This was a gift given to me by my friend Jen, who I completely trust when it comes to poetry, and I can't believe I've not gotten around to it yet. No. Also want to finally get around to Plum by Holly McNish. I have read a couple of the... Nope. Also, nope. We'll also be listening to the audiobook of Trainwreck by Sadie Doyle. Thank goodness. Yes, I read Trainwreck. Again, it was a feminist orchestra book club read, so of course I read it. I also have a book on my Kindle that I'd like to get to, which is Veins of Magic by Emma Hamm. Yes, I read Veins of Magic. It was the sequel to a book that I also read in 2018 and I really enjoyed the sequel as well. Another fantasy read I would like to get around to is Beauty by Sherry S. Tepper. Didn't read Beauty. Oh dear. I read a different book called Beauty. Does that count? By Robin McKinley, but not this one. I then do have a few non-fiction books I'm potentially considering. First off, I really feel in the mood to read something else about prisons. I don't know what that kind of reading mood is, but that's what's taken me, and I have two books about prisons, so I imagine I will pick one of these. This one is Prison Gate. The other one is If They Come For Us in the Morning. They're both non-fiction books about prisons, like I mentioned in my TBR, and I didn't read either of them. I also have these two non-fiction books which I'm kind of toying between. We will see. The first one was sent to me by the publisher and I just think it sounds amazing. It is essays on why women have better sex under socialism. Didn't read either of them either. So it's really interesting because I feel like the summer TBR went really well when I was going through it, the autumn TBR not so much. The only other TBR video I did specifically for 2018 was my end of year TBR. Now there's still a few weeks left in 2018, so I will be a little bit lenient on myself here because I could still read a few of these books, but you know, if I've not read most of them, I'm not going to read most of them. So let's see where I've got to so far on that one. For book clubs that I am in, so have to read. And the first one is Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. Okay, I'm currently reading Kindred by Octavia E. Butler, so that is fine. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's a science fiction novel about time travel and slavery, and it's very interesting. And I know what the next one is if it's my book club read, because it'll be Home Fire. Let's see. The read is Home Fire by Camilla Shamsi. This is actually a retelling of... Yes, So I haven't started that yet, but it's my Patreon book club read, and we'll be talking about it at the end of December, beginning of January, so I definitely will read it. It's kind of the next book I plan to pick up, to be honest. Reading with a friend of mine, so again we'll definitely be getting to it, and that is Dreamer's Pool by Juliet Marillier. This is the first in the Blackthorn and Grimm series by Juliet Marillier. I just read that one. It was my 6th Juliet Marillier book of the year, and like I said, I was buddy reading it, so I buddy read it with my friends Lauren and Jill, and we all read it together and enjoyed it, so I have read that one. And moving on to one of my goals for this year, which was to read more ancient Greek tragedies. So I have a overall, essentially what I said, if you haven't seen this video, is I want to read another Greek tragedy. I didn't specify which one I wanted to read. I'm open to just having read at least one more Greek tragedy before the year is out. I haven't done that yet, but like I said, there's a couple of weeks left, and I'm definitely going to do that. Like, a Greek tragedy takes you a day to read, so I will be doing that. I just haven't done it yet. So if I don't do it, tell me off. The next book I don't have a physical copy of, because I actually have reserved at my library. I'm just waiting for it to come in so I can go pick it up, and that is Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. This, haven't read it, but just picked it up from the library, so there's a good chance I will read it, hopefully, at least sort of at the end of this year, beginning of next year, because I've just taken it out of the library. What else? And then I have a non-fiction book I'd like to read, and that is Nkrumah and the Ghana Revolution by C.L.R. James. I really messed up his name there, didn't I? C.L.R. James, Jean. Haven't read that one yet. Not sure if I'm going to read it before the end of the year. I still want to give it a try, and there is still technically time. It's a very short book, but I'm not 100% sure whether I will or not. Same goes for this next book, actually, because I haven't read it either. In our exchange, my boyfriend lent me Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, so I obviously want to get to this because I'm borrowing it from somebody. And yeah, haven't read Giovanni's Room yet. Again, it's a very short book though, so you know, if I like keep reading at a good speed, then I may yet read both of those books. But next up, I have a book that I was sent for review that I'm super excited about, and that is The Seafarer's Kiss by Juliet Ember. I am really excited about it because it's a queer retelling of The Little Mermaid, but I haven't read it yet. Oh dear. I was also sent a copy of Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, which was recently adapted as a film, and I would really like to watch the film, but I would like to read the book first. So I'm thinking it might be a film I watch around Christmas time, if it's come out to watch like streaming or... I have read Crazy Rich Asians, and I've even read the sequel since reading the first one, so I really, you know, took it home with that task. I have one more book on this list that is actually sent by the publishers, and that is The Corset by Laura Purcell. I actually read the first chapter of this last night, so I might be reading it very soon. I read the first chapter, but I haven't continued on with it yet. Just got distracted by other things. The first chapter was brilliant, and I really do want to continue on with it. There are 2 more books on my TBR, so let's quickly get to them. The first one is The Book of Phoenix by Nnedi Okorafor. I'm having quite the Nnedi Okorafor binge this year. Nope, haven't read it, but I have read a lot of other Nnedi Okorafor this year. And lastly, I'd like to read Tory Heaven or Thunder on the Right by Margarita Lasky. Nope, haven't read that either. So I think it's been a mixed bag. So essentially there's 27 books I said I would read and didn't read, and I'm counting the pairs that I suggested in my autumn TBRs where I said I would read one of these as one, because I never said I would read both. So I said there was 27 books I want to read and haven't read. I think I'll read a few more of those before the end of the year. Like I mentioned, there's a couple that I'll definitely read before this year is over. But I can tell you now, I'm not going to read another 27 books, so I'm definitely not going to finish all my TBRs, which suggests to me that I definitely shouldn't start doing monthly TBRs, because that doesn't work. Although I think generally the seasonal TBR works reasonably well, because I did okay with the autumn TBR. It seemed like about a 50-50 split. I feel like I read more than 50% of my summer TBR books. So it clearly is indicative of what I'm interested in at the time. You just sometimes get distracted by other exciting things that come onto your radar. So that was interesting for sure. And it also reminded me of a few books that I really do want to read and then maybe just kind of left by the wayside a bit. So I will maybe include some of these books in my TBR for 2019, because I think I'm going to pick like 10 books or 12 books maybe, since there's 12 months that I absolutely want to read in 2019. So I'll maybe pick a few books from that list, the ones I don't manage to get to this year. Do let me know what ones you've enjoyed and read in the past or would just like to hear my thoughts on, so you think I should prioritise. But also let me know how you got on with your TBRs for the year. Did you set yourself a yearly TBR, seasonal TBRs, monthly TBRs, and did you stick to them? I don't know if you enjoyed this video. It was a little bit different. For me, it was different from me making a video where I was watching myself. That was odd. But I really enjoy watching Lala and Emma do similar videos, so I thought it'd be fun, although I don't plan on starting to do these every month. So I hope you enjoyed it. Do check out the other people's channels I've mentioned in the description box down below, and I hope you're having a lovely day. Bye guys!